Good morning, students. Today we want to look at direct labor variances. Let me show you where to find this information. If you go to your blackboard, Test 5 material, the PowerPoint slides are in the middle, direct labor variances, and right under that would be your in-class handout and your homework. Okay, in-class handout looks like this. We'll work through this problem with the PowerPoints, and then homework looks like this. Now be sure on the homework that you do draw out the model. Even though I've asked you for specific questions, make sure you draw out the model for me. Okay, so let me get this set up. Just a reminder, what we're looking at is the difference between actual amounts spent. Previously it was on material. Now we're looking at actual amounts spent on labor versus what you budgeted or expected to spend, and we refer to that amount as a standard now. Okay, so that's a standard, and that standard equals budgeted or estimated. Okay, so we use a standard system. Okay, this is still Western Rider jeans. They make jeans. They sold a total of 5,000 pairs in June. They estimated 4,000 direct labor hours. Okay, so that's an important bit of information for you. You'll need that. And they estimated $9 per direct labor hours. That's what they were going to pay their workers. So those are your two standards, budgeted or estimated amounts. Okay, and then what we actually ended up working and spending, the workers worked 3,850 hours at $10 per hour. So it appears that they got a slight raise here. Now, if you remember on the materials, it was actual quantity, actual price, standard quantity, standard price. Okay, we're going to change that a little bit. So let's draw out our model. First thing we want to get is the actual cost and the standard cost. And we want to get from that what we refer to as the total labor difference. So drawing your model. On this side, we're going to have actual hours times actual rate. Actual hours times actual rate. For the materials, it was actual quantity times actual price, but it's changing slightly here. Okay, so the actual hours worked 3,850 times $10 an hour for a total of $38,500 is what we actually paid our workers to make the jeans. Now over on the other side, we want to put our estimated or standard, and we're going to refer to that as standard hours times standard rate. That's going to be the 4,000 direct labor hours at $9 per hour. So when you multiply that, you'll end up with $36,000. Okay. So what we're getting here is the total cost variance for our direct labor. Okay, what's the difference here? That's what a variance is. So you want to subtract from left to right actual minus your standard, and that's going to give you a difference of $2,500. Now you have to decide if it's favorable or unfavorable. You have to tell me that. Okay. Now, if you've spent more than you should have spent, then it's going to be unfavorable. So an unfavorable variance means actual is greater than standard, and that would be unfavorable. Okay, and that's what we have here. Actually, we spent $38,500. We should have spent $36,000. We overspent, so we have an unfavorable variance here for our total difference between what we expected and what we did pay our workers. Now, we want to divide this into two parts because we want to know why. We're doing a report for our boss. We want to know, was it because we gave them a raise? Was it because they wasted time? Took too long to do the project? And this won't give us all the answers, but it'll help us decide and tell our boss one or the other. So the first difference is going to be your direct labor rate variance. So it says in the second part, use the actual direct labor hours and the actual rate to calculate the actual direct labor cost. That would be your $38,500. We've already done that right here. Okay. Now we want that imaginary number I was telling you about. That's what I call it. And you have to get it from taking, if you set this up correctly, you want your actual hours times your standard rate. Okay. So in this case, actual hours was $38.50. Standard rate was $9. That's what we budgeted. So actual hours times the $9 would give you an amount of $34,650. So that's that middle number. Now, to find what we call the direct labor rate variance, that's what we're looking for. We want to take the difference between the actual and the imaginary number. Okay, so this time we want to subtract the actual and the imaginary number. So let me come down and we'll answer our questions here. $34,650 is your imaginary. You want to subtract $38,500 minus $34,650. And that's going to give you a difference of $3,850. And we want to decide if it's favorable or unfavorable. Well, since this is the rate, okay, variance, let's look at our rates. We spent $10 an hour. That's what we gave them. We budgeted $9 an hour. So in this case, the actual rate was greater than the standard rate. So that makes it unfavorable. Now, it was good for them, but not for us. It caused us to spend too much money. And the question is, well, why? Maybe they're part of a union. Okay, they got a raise. We obviously know that. Was it voluntary on our part, or were they part of a union and insisted on a raise? Did they strike? We don't know. We'd have to go see what's going on with the company here. Okay, but at any rate, we know they got a raise. Okay, so $3,850 would be your unfavorable direct labor rate variance. Now let's look at the other side. We want to see if they were efficient. How well did they use their time? Okay, so this side is going to be called the direct labor time variance. Another word would be efficiency variance. How did they do with their time? So coming down, what we're going to do is take the difference between our imaginary number and our standard or our estimate. So let's follow our problem here. Our imaginary number was 3,000. Wait, this one asks for standard. Standard direct labor hours, standard rate, that's going to be this number, 36,000. So let's put that in there. The imaginary number we've already calculated at 34,650. Okay. Now we want to take the difference left to right between the imaginary number and the estimate, standard. Okay, so you have to go left to right here. Don't get confused the way these are set up because that's wrong, okay? So we have to take the 34,650 minus the 36,000. So be careful about that. Follow your model up there. Go left to right. Now what we're going to have here is a negative number. Now a negative number indicates a favorable variance. That doesn't make sense to you, but if the number is negative, that means that it's going to be favorable. So let me explain how that worked here. Okay, what you're looking at is the amount of time that they spent working. Okay, now the actual hours they worked were 3850. 4,000 is what we budgeted. Okay, so what that means is, let's look at it. Actual hours, 3850. Standard hours, 4,000. Okay. Now, if the actual hours is less than the standard hours, then it's favorable. Okay. Means we budgeted or estimated they'd work 4,000 hours, but they didn't work that long. So it's a favorable difference. Now, let's put that in up here. Let's think about that just a minute. Negative 1350, and it's favorable. Okay. Why would they work less hours? Okay, well now if you go back and you look at the material, I think we got some better quality material. Maybe that ties back into the material budget. Okay, so the material was easier to work with, or maybe the learning curve. Okay, they're just they have learned, they've met the learning curve. They're doing a better job. Maybe they've been there longer because generally there's a learning curve for newer employees. Okay, and they're becoming more efficient. They're just doing a better job and they're not wasting time as much. Okay. One other thing before we finish up, I want to reconcile our total number. So let's come back up here. Okay, 2,500 unfavorable. Now, these two numbers in the blocks have to equal this number. So if we take our rate variance, which is 3850, unfavorable, and we take our time variance, which is a negative 1350. Don't subtract, just add like that. Okay, so add these. What we end up with is 2,500, which is unfavorable. So it does match what we calculated to begin with on the total cost variance. So now you could do a report for your boss and tell him, unfavorable on the price, but our workers are more efficient. Maybe that was a motivating tool by giving them a raise. Okay, so again, your homework, it's on the blackboard. I'll have it under the assignment tab. Do the model. Okay, you have to do the model. Make sure you've got all of these numbers calculated in, and do the calculations like we just did, show favorable and unfavorable, and submit that by Friday, 11:59 p.m. Okay, have a good day. Take care.